Welcome back to Recovering from Everything, a podcast for everyone who has ever had anything happen to them ever. I'm Kinga. I'm your host. Obviously, you know that. Today, we're going to be breaking down this one phrase that makes me absolutely mental because it just keeps our women stuck. We're breaking down that like 5 p.m. wine o'clock myth. And I swear, if I go into one more kitschy store and see like dish towels or signs or wine glasses that say it's wine o'clock on them, I will do nothing, but it makes me nuts. So obviously, big spoiler alert, it's not about the wine. I suppose for some women it could be if you're like super into varietals, etc. But no, it's not about the wine. It's about something far, far deeper, which I'm sure comes as a shock to nobody. Rage, which is what I feel when I see wine o'clock merch at stores. Rage, anger, overstimulation is a big one. Even being like emotionally flatlined, wine is really good for getting those bumps back in your day. So we're going to cover it all. So let's dig in. Okay, so let's talk about that moment that the wine sort of whisper starts. The one, it's, 4:43 or 12:41 or 1:27, whatever. You're doing something, anything, chopping zucchini. The dog is barking. Your phone is buzzing. Someone's yelling from the bathroom that they're out of toilet paper, like whatever is happening in your life. And it's uncomfortable. And your brain's just like, wine would fix this. You know what would be great right now? A glass of wine. It's wine o'clock. So my argument is, again, unless you really, really like wine, it's not the wine that you are craving. It's the pause, it's relief, it's disconnection from that present moment, from your brain, from your skin. Um, it's something that can often mark the transition from being everything to everyone, and actually like into actually getting to be yourself again. So for years, years, I thought that, the after work wine sort of like reward was a treat, a little pocket of joy, a little burst of relief from a chaotic day and um, my brain sometimes, just to be frank. But when I got honest, I realized it was actually the only time in my day that was like just for me. It was sitting down for a few minutes. It was me sort of like connecting with my body, right? Like, 'cause that first sip of wine, you can feel that going through your system. And that was the problem, that was the only time that I sort of like allotted for just me. And it's unfortunate that I was using that just Kinga time to damage my body, damage my brain. It ended up doing filtering into all aspects of my life. I really saw I really see that reflected in the women that I coach. They're not drinking. I literally have one client that's like this like mocktail. Um uh like a cocktail, sort of like aficionado. She and her partner sort of like nerd out on that kind of thing. But um, most of, 99.9% of the women that I coach aren't in it for the love of the flavor. They're in it because they feel depleted. They're, we're talking like bone deep, soul draining depletion. And that level of sort of like emptiness wears a lot of outfits. Boredom, anger, loneliness, overstimulation, even like being under touched. Um, so I kind of want to dive into each of those because those are probably the most common themes. So the boredom, anger, loneliness, overstimulation, or being like undertouched. So the boredom doesn't mean you have nothing to do necessarily. Your calendar's full, you're running errands, you're handling 1,000 moving parts. Um, but it means that you aren't in the picture. You haven't done one thing that day that sparked your curiosity or brought joy just for you in you know not that being around our families don't bring us joy, but there is a version of you, there's a version of you that uh exists outside of those things. And so feeling just outright boredom could be an indicator that you've been doing too much for other people, and you've sort of missed the boat on doing something that was like just for you. Anger is a huge one. We live in a culture that tells women to smile, smile more, and to smooth things over and to pick your battles. So, we will swallow our frustration until 5 p.m., where it will either bubble up or we know exactly how to sort of like end it for the day. And wine becomes the sort of like acceptable outlet for that. Um, Next one is loneliness, which is really sneaky. Obviously you can be surrounded by people, family, coworkers, your friends, and still feel like no one really sees you. In fact, that's one of the most common things that women say when they join the community is like they feel so seen and they feel heard. And so think of how long you maybe have gone without anyone really connecting to the real you. Um, and a lot of women do say like wine is their companion and it's their best friend, it's their confidant. um Despite it, I like to think it's like more of a frenemy eventually, but it's their bestie, despite it sort of like eroding any real ability for real connection. So bit of a paradox there. Overstimulation for women can be a big one. Especially there's been like a really cool movement of ADHD and neurodivergence and autism, and many adults are getting diagnosed in adulthood. But overstimulation, oh God, like me being a neurodivergent, I know what it does to me, and I feel like my skin is on fire. And I often say like I feel like my brain is melting. Um, Makes sense why I drank so much, because it wasn't until the last couple of years that I was like, I think something's different up here in my beautiful noodle. It's also what makes me a really incredible coach because I also have like amazing pattern recognition. That's neither here nor there. I also go on tangents, as you may have noticed. But the idea of overstimulation, um, I would probably poke around there. The noise, the demands, the notification, or being touched. So kids like to touch, spouses like to touch, dogs like to touch, clothes touching your body in a way that's just like, and if you are still going into an office or working every day, like that is a real thing. Hair touching your face, just stimulated. Um, so there's also the flip side where possibly you're under touched, where, maybe you don't have anybody living in your home, or there's like an emotional disconnection between you and your partner, um, or you might just be lacking like the intimacy, like that like emotional bond. Um, Wine takes care of both those things. So the the your happy hour, your wine o'clock, um, the wine acts as I mean, it's a depressant, right? So it slows everything down. So it really, really, really like numbs out the overstimulation. And then also, if you are undertouched and lacking in stimulation, wine is great for that, right? Have you ever had a conversation with a couple of glasses of wine in you? You are the best conversationalist in the room. Here's why I bring all of those specific, because I know we're like, oh, well, we're going to get into wine o'clock, but it's like those five or six and possibly more for you, depending on the context of your life. But uh, those are those five or six feelings or experiences are the drivers into wine o'clock. So we really rely on the wine to blur those feelings or to sometimes to even name them. Like being under the influence of alcohol is a really great sort of lubricant for communication. And sometimes that is the only time that women can communicate or will allow themselves to communicate in sort of a more productive way, right? It's a truth theorem. Um, and I know that like when I mean I quit drinking entirely, and that's not a requirement to work with me, but I love it and it's my preference, and that's my choice. But when I quit drinking, I actually had to learn a whole new emotional vocabulary. So that was part of the podcast, is I wanted to give you um, five or six words that you could maybe use and are maybe applicable to you, and sort of like different ideas that maybe you hadn't considered. Because I know I walked in with like a blank slate and I was like, I'm angry and I'm sad. And it actually turned out to be a whole bunch of things within those sort of like umbrella terms, but it was also a bunch of other things, right? Neurodivergence was a big one, like just being overstimulated all the time. Um, and so now I can sort of pause and be like, is it boredom? Is it rage? Is it loneliness? Loneliness can be really, really difficult if you've got like a house full of people. Um, for me, it's typically overstimulation and everything that accompanies that, which is a bunch of rage usually. Am I sad? Do I need a nap? Right. My relationship with food also is a big factor for me. Um, am I hangry? Am I starting this like revolution in my life because I like need to have a snack? But the more that I practice naming these things, the easier it gets for me to be like, hold on, oh, okay, X led to Y led to Z, bingo bango, and I don't have to blow up my whole life. Because I'm having a feeling. So I think I'm going to put out a challenge, and you can follow up with me or not. I would love it if you do. But the next time you feel that 5 p.m., that wine o'clock pull, don't ask like, do I want wine? Where's the wine? Whatever. Just like take a second and be like, what actually am I feeling right now? Like which of these am I needing a little bit of an escape from? And have your wine, do it, but just take that moment to like connect with yourself. And boredom, rage, loneliness, overstimulation, or frankly, understimulation. It's like the and if you can get to the next step of like giving yourself whatever it is that you're missing, because we know it's not necessarily the wine, if you can get to that next step of giving yourself what you're missing, great, awesome, cool, amazing, love that for you. If not, that's also completely fine. Just sort of practice naming whatever it is that you, beautiful sweet baby angel soul, are experiencing. Like, reconnect with yourself. I think you'll probably notice a very interesting sort of domino effect where the more that you start meeting your own needs, the less wine is like the director of your show. So next time you feel the urge, ask yourself, what am I actually craving? What am I actually needing right now in this moment? It's very often rest, right? You need rest, a release of your rage in a controlled, safe, productive way. You might need affection, or you might need solitude. Big solitude girl here. Solitude, right? Pick solitude, not your Sauvignon Blanc. So cheesy. Um, but you absolutely can build this life where those needs are met and not numbed. So, if that's something you want my help with, obviously, not a sales pitch, but obviously that's literally what I've dedicated my life to doing. So, the masterclass link is in the show notes, and give it a listen if it resonates. Yay. If not, that's also fine. And that's it. It's a short one today. So thanks for listening to another episode of Recovering from Everything, a podcast for everyone who has ever had anything happen to them ever, including buying a dish towel that says it's wine o'clock. See you soon. Love you.